This is Let's Talk Radical Radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR.
Your hosts today are Mary Frank leading our conversation, Paul Raffel answering the phones, Raven Gray as guest co-host, and I'm Robin Carpenter.
And I'm over here. And I got you all on, not me. When you call in, hear the phone ringing, please hang on. When you hear me say you're on the air, please give us your first name, turn down your radio, and please watch your language.
Yes, and today we're going to be talking about the Dakota Access Pipeline and the people who are protecting the water there, the Lakota Sioux, the Native Americans, gathered at Standing Rock, who are resisting its construction. And also joining them are thousands of citizens joining them in support. Just a little background, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approved the pipeline, which runs through North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois. It's designed to carry 500,000 barrels of crude every day on its 1,200-mile journey. And recently, the Lakota Sioux at Standing Rock have sued based on the fact that it puts at risk their water supply and sacred burial sites. And they have been subject to incredible violence and brutality, and they claim it was done, all of this without legally mandated consultation with the tribe, which would be a violation of the federal law under the National Historic Preservation Act. And since this resistance began, there have been an escalation of violence against peaceful protesters, including the use of military weapons and vehicles, attack dogs, rubber bullets, and fire hoses in freezing temperatures. These methods have caused serious injury to those peacefully protesting, and police have arrested reporters covering the standoff. Later in the show, Jeffrey Haas is going to be calling in. He's one of the lead attorneys who, along with several other people in New York, I guess it was filed. No, it was filed in Bismarck, have filed the lawsuit, and he's going to be talking a little bit about that. And with Raven just came back from there, so she's going to give us a boots on the ground, a recount of what's going on. Raven, can you tell us a little bit about what you went through?
Wow, that's a big story. Hi, I'm Raven, and I like to start by saying that I'm English from Great Britain, but we currently live on occupied coast Miwok territory. So, this is a prayer camp. It's more than a protest against the pipeline. And I learned while I was there and before I went that this is really an indigenous-led movement. It's about indigenous land rights. It's not just about a pipeline. It's about an ongoing struggle against colonial violence and indigenous genocide. And that's why I think it's important as part of that work to recognize whose land you are on. In Turtle Island, in the continent of the U.S., you're definitely on indigenous land. This land here where we live was never, ever given to the white settlers. It was stolen. And so I think that's an important background. I can't give you, a brief synopsis of my time there other than to say it was, brutal, ugly, beautiful, and, very, very humbling to be there in service to a movement of the rising indigenous voices. I also want to say that, You didn't mention that the pipeline was originally slated to go through Bismarck.
Yes, and it was a white middle-class neighborhood, and they said, oh, no, we can't have that there. 3 out of 4 toxic waste dumps in this country are in neighborhoods of color. So,
it's an issue of environmental justice as well. And the fact is that, it's all unceded Lakota territory, even though the Army Corps of Engineers says it's their land. It actually, according to the 1851 Laramie Treaty, still belongs to the Lakota Nation.
So, to the point about it, the Bismarck residents, the white residents saying we don't want it near us, I Snoped that. I looked it up on Snopes, and apparently that's not exactly the case. I mean, they looked at the running it by Bismarck, but it was 11 miles longer, more road crossings, and more water body and wetland crossings. It also would have been difficult to stay 500 or more feet away from homes as required by the public service. So,
what's the source of that? Who said that?
This was the story in the Bismarck Tribune, which people have quoted and said that it was...
Enough said, the Bismarck Tribune.
And there you go.
Source of information.
Just saying.
And if we appreciate all views, and given their track record, I don't think that's really why they rerouted it, personally.
So one of the things that I found interesting, and I don't know if that was being discussed much, Raven, but Bobby Kennedy Jr. has done several, I thought, excellent videos, some as short as 3 minutes, that really explain that the way there has been no environmental impact study done on this pipeline, as was the same situation with Keystone until it was forced to be done. Because if you do an environmental impact study, you will find you cannot build that. And the way they got away with it is they segmented the pipeline. If you're only going to build something on an acre, then you don't have to get an environmental impact study. So they segmented the pipeline into something like 50 million half-acre segments. Right. So it's like they got a permit for like bit by bit by bit, so that it's thousands or probably hundreds of thousands of permits, and got around the environmental impact study. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. says, who, as many people know, has worked very hard on the Clean Water Act and clean waters for the United States. And he says all we need is for Obama to call for, all we need to do is have an environmental impact study called for, and that will stop it in its tracks. Right. And that's a pretty simple, easy thing to do. And even with Trump taking office, once that's been put into place, the request to do it, you can't stop it. It has to be done.
Did you see the oil pipeline guy on TV saying, "Oh yeah, I gave $130,000 to the Trump campaign"? Sure. 100% we're going to get this thing.
But let's don't forget that under Obama, we've had hundreds of pipelines approved. So, this is not... So,
and the fact that Obama could stop it right now.
And doesn't. So I just want to say things have been bad. Things will continue to be bad unless there's some pushback from us as citizens in support of. So, Raven, tell us a little bit more about what especially for you, you were with the youth, you were there with your son. Can you tell us about the area in which you were staying?
There was approximately 7,000 people there. That was over a week ago. I was there before Thanksgiving, or Thanks-taking, as I heard it called while I was on site there. And I believe there's 10,000, maybe 12,000 with the veterans arriving now. They were split up mostly. Most people are staying at Ochetisacawan, which is the Seven Fires Council. That's the main camp. That's supposedly on contested Army Corps of Engineers land. That's the one piece of land, if you've been watching the news, where they received an eviction order by the Army Corps of Engineers to vacate this camp by December the 5th, which is Monday. That's not the land I was staying on. That's over the bridge, the north side of the Cannonball River. It's closest to where the pipeline is being built. DAPL Security, the National Guard, DAPL Security, and the militarized police I personally witnessed them coming closer and closer to that camp with their floodlights and their armored vehicles, and definitely intimidation tactics being used big time on that camp. Then across the river is where I stayed, Rosebud. That was a much smaller camp, still probably a couple of thousand people there, and they are on the Sioux reservation land. So that I was told to camp there because I had a young son and I wanted to be safe. Then there's Sacred Stone Camp, which is on La Donna Brave Bull's private land next to Cannonball surrounded by reservation land, and that is the original camp. That was founded, or people have been camping and protesting there since April of earlier this year. So, and then there's camps within camps as well. There's the Red Warrior Society, which are a lot of very fierce young indigenous men. They have their own camp within Assateague. There's definitely camps within camps, but the main sacred fires and the elders and all the meetings that are held for the prayer ceremonies are really happening at Assateague, which is the main camp.
And that's the camp that the Corps of Engineers is once cleared, let's put it that way.
Yes, and also the governor of North Dakota issued a executive order for them to clear that land as well, and to stop emergency services coming in and supplies coming in. And
that's right. So they said no ambulances, no whatever, don't count on that.
And we're going to stop people bringing in supplies, and we're going to fine them $1,000 if they do. I mean, that's what they said originally in their press releases.
And now they're backtracking, right?
Then they back
saying,
down, but it's all very confusing. Lots of misinformation and rumors and confusion, divide and conquer.
And how are the tribal elders handling that? My understanding from Ford Green, who was there, is that they seem to be doing a really good job of trying to stay on top of things that are getting chaotic, or, you're dealing with all these personalities as well, undergoing stress. And I
imagine it's challenging for them, but from my experience, the elders held a really strong prayer space. They're really holding the ground there with the youth. The indigenous people are praying hard and keeping it very grounded and real, and absolutely saying we will not move, we will not be bullied. These are intimidation threats. We've been dealing with this kind of stuff for 200, 300 years, and we're not going to back down now.
Excellent. And we have a caller. Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Martine in Bolinas.
Hey, Martine.
Wanted to thank you and let you know that there will be prayer making for Standing Rock, prayer flag making in Bolinas on December 4th, which is a day Bolinas is dedicating to standing with Standing Rock. And you can go on Facebook to Bolinas Standing with Standing Rock to find out about this. There'll be a post probably sometime today.
Facebook, Standing with Standing Rock.
And the prayer flag making will be from 1 to 3. I think it will be in the downtown park. We haven't received permission yet, so we have to find out about that. But I'll be making the prayers and singing and holding sacred space for Standing Rock there.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martine.
Thank you, Martine.
Well, there's also, since we're talking about gatherings, protesting right here locally, today at, I believe, 4:30 to 6:30.
Oh, yes.
In the sidewalks in San Rafael near Citibank, 666 3rd Street. Lovely, 666. I love it. They'll be gathering. Yeah. Fabulous.
You're right by the transit center.
Yeah.
There.
You can gather there today, folks, to let your voice be heard. We have another caller.
Excellent. We do. Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Constance Washburn, and I just came back from Standing Rock on Sunday. And I wanted to refer back to the previous conversation about the misinformation that gets passed around about what's going on. And today I got an update from Dallas Goldtooth, I think, who is the official spokesperson, talking about the camps, and that the government cannot stop supplies from coming into the camp. That's illegal, so they can't do that. And that, things like they're not buying up hotel rooms next door, and they're not being sprayed with chemicals. So there's a lot of misinformation that gets put out, and then people start panicking. While I was there was some rumor there was going to be, I think, Raven, you were still there then too, maybe not, was, the camp's going to be raided, and everybody's racing around, get the women and children to the dome, and people need to evacuate. And it was all just rumors that got spread to foment chaos.
Yeah, you think it's
it's
infiltrators?
really important to get the information from sort of the official site.
Yeah.
Well, I think, along with all the rumors, there is the absolute reality that they are using military weapons. They're shooting bullets that are wounding people. A woman's almost losing her eye. Someone else almost lost their arm. So those are not rumors. That is absolute off-the-chart assault and violence.
Well,
which is
Constance,
against
let's see what
peaceful
Constance... Okay.
Yeah.
So, Constance, what was your experience? Did you see any of that, or?
No, because I wasn't volunteering to be in actions on the front line. So the front lines are far enough away. You see the big bright lights at night out, guarding the pipeline. But I think the most moving thing to me was in just that this is an indigenous-centered movement, and just the pride and the love and the passion that the Native peoples from that area, but also around the country and around the world, that they're bringing thousands of years of holding on to that connection to Mother Earth and to the water and to the sacredness of life, and that cord is still there, and they're bringing it forward in such a strong way, and the pride and the determination of these people who have been abused and murdered and shat upon by Western civilizations for thousands of years are still standing up for the earth, not only for themselves, but for all of us. And that's, to me, what was so exciting, to be there and be in support of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being there, I think. And
yeah,
your group took in a lot of supplies, right?
We did. We had a convoy of a couple cars and 3 RVs, and we brought propane heaters and generators, 0-degree sleeping bags. We stopped on the way and bought 2 winter Army tents and set those up for elder veterans to be able to have a place to stay over the winter. And we had wood, and we also bought wood stoves to go in them. So we installed the wood stoves and installed the tent. So that was great. So there's so many people there. I mean, Raven, after you left, the stream of cars coming in for the Thanksgiving and then the Thanksgiving weekend was just nonstop, 24/7. The line of cars coming in from the road.
I just want to remind everybody that this is Let's Talk Radio, pardon me, with host Mary Frank, Paul Raffel, guest co-host Raven Gray, and I'm Robin Carpenter. Please call us on 415-663-8492 and tell us your thoughts about Standing Rock. You can also tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR with your thoughts and opinions. And please watch your language, because we do have our 7 deadly words we cannot say on the air.
Even in the past tense.
I think it might be good at this point to talk a little bit about...
Oh, do we want to say farewell to Constance?
Oh,
yes. Okay. So
I thought you did.
Oh, so Constance, thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome. And I just, I think, people have been asking me should they go, and more people wanting to go. And I think being able to donate to the camp so they can buy the supplies that they really need is important. And keeping what's happening at Standing Rock visible in our communities in a big way so that it doesn't drop out of people's minds. So I think those are 2 really important things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Constance.
Thank you, Constance.
Thank you for going.
Yeah, and there was some comment that some folks are coming and treating it like Burning Man, which is completely inappropriate and not really recognizing what's going on there, truly. Oh, we have another caller.
We have another caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please? And turn your radio off, please.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hello. La, la, la. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Paul.
Who's calling?
Bing Gong.
Bing. Hi, Bing.
Hi, Bing.
Hi, Robin. And is Raven there?
Raven's here, too.
Raven is here.
Oh, wonderful. Am I on the air?
You're on the air.
You are.
We hear you
Can
loud
you
and
get
clear.
closer to your phone at all?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you get closer to your phone? You're very faint there.
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted everybody to know that I've put together an event for the community for Raven, Constance, and Nani Welch, and I'm hoping to get Wendy Schwartz to report back to the community. It's going to be at the Presbyterian Church Wednesday night, at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next Wednesday, right, Bing?
Yes, the 7th, December 7th.
Thank you.
And we hope to show the pictures and Raven to give some historical background and all of that there, too.
Uh-huh.
Great.
Raven.
That'll be a great community sharing.
A Raven report. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bing.
Thank you, Bing. Thanks very much. And we have another caller. What's your name, please?
My name is Jeffrey Haas.
Oh, hi, Jeffrey. You're
hi,
on the
Jeff.
air.
Hi.
Jeff is the attorney along with the Lawyers Guild who just filed the lawsuit. Jeff, can you tell us about that a little bit?
Well, I think people are somewhat familiar with what's going on at Standing Rock, and it's the brave effort of 200-plus tribes to try to block the DAPL from bringing dirty oil from the Bakken oil fields to the Gulf, going through a lot of their sacred land and treaty territory, threatening their water supply, and just allowing that much more oil to produce carbon in the atmosphere. So they've taken a stand against DAPL and stood in the way of the machinery and bulldozers, and it's led to mass arrests and the increased militarization of the law enforcement in the North Dakota area. And so this has gone on, and they've gone from it started on September 3rd with dogs used by security guards, and it wrapped up now where you have police in riot gear using concussion grenades, sound machines, and actually on November 20th, when people were out there, it was freezing cold, and they sprayed everybody with water cannons in freezing weather, and threw these percussion grenades and massive amounts of tear gas. So one woman has lost part of an arm, another person has had their eye detached, and these were against nonviolent protesters who were seeking to unblock a bridge which had interfered with their access to this large encampment. So we filed a lawsuit, and we're asking for a hearing on the excessive force that's being used now by the Morton County Sheriff and other sheriff's departments. Hopefully we'll get a hearing next week.
And what is expected?
Possible.
What do you expect to come from that hearing? I mean, will there be any bite to it?
Well, I think if we are allowed a hearing, I think the witnesses or evidence that we will present is pretty powerful about how this peaceful assembly on this bridge was sort of attacked Army style by all these mechanized weapons, including sound cannons and including these water cannons that were sprayed on people, rubber bullets. I'm hearing beanbags full of lead pellets and all kinds of crowd control mechanisms, which when you use it on people who are hemmed in on a bridge and surrounded with tear gas in the middle of the night with water, it becomes pretty dangerous because people don't really have a method to retreat. So we're asking the court to take cognizance of this military response, and also it's a response to inhibit water protectors from exercising their First Amendment rights.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jeff, in terms of legally other actions, Bobby Kennedy Jr. was saying that if there could be a call for an environmental impact statement, that would be a great way to stop any further development happening. What kind of legal actions are being taken in terms of actually finding legal mechanisms to stop or insist on environmental impact study?
Well, of course, there was a lawsuit claiming that they did not do enough study of either the impact or upon the sacred sites of the tribes. That suit, unfortunately, the judges in D.C. said they had gone through enough oversight. But what your caller said is true, is they've never had an environmental impact statement, which means study the entire impact environmentally of this pipeline. Instead, they did something much more superficial called an environmental study. So that's one of the things that has not gone on. And if Obama or if the Corps of Engineers would require an environmental impact study, that would delay the project for several months.
How easy would it be for Obama to do that?
I think there are several things he could do. First of all, you just say, okay, we're going to deny this permit, and then we're either going to set in motion a process that takes a while to study, and that could be the death of the pipeline because it's on very fragile ground. The contracts it's made with the oil suppliers run out in January, and they're not going to pay for this unneeded capacity anymore with the oil prices down and the amount of oil being drilled also being down. So it's really, they're hell-bent on getting this thing done under the Missouri River, which is where the conflict is right now.
And which is also a fresh water supply to 17 million people.
That's exactly right.
It isn't just the tribes. It's 17 million people in this country where if they had a leak, when they will, would put all of those people in danger.
It definitely could. And it's also interesting, one of the things is when they originally did the environmental study, the pipeline was supposed to go in right next to Bismarck, which is about 40 miles north of where the...
Yeah, we talked about this earlier in the show, and it was our understanding that it wasn't going through because it was a white middle-class neighborhood, and there was some pushback on that. What is your opinion on that?
Well, it's a white town.
And that's why?
Bismarck is.
Yeah.
It wasn't the neighborhood it went through. It was the fact that it endangered the entire city's water supply.
Mm-hmm. So they
went under the Missouri River where they got their water supply.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved it so it went right now. They're seeking to put it right under the Missouri River next to or right above water, up water from where the Standing Rock and the other Sioux tribes get their drinking water and their agricultural water.
So, Jeff, basically the request for an EIS could come from the Corps of Engineers or come from the president, and that's a pretty simple thing to request. And my understanding as well is because that report will show, just like with Keystone XL, that not only is this an environmentally sensitive, not appropriate area to put in this pipeline, but the pipeline itself will actually cost the American people millions upon millions of dollars, and there will be no benefit. It may generate something like 15 jobs. The oil is all going to China. So we the American people, are spending millions and millions of dollars to build a pipeline that will benefit maybe, 50 billionaire investors, and it will actually be hurting America. America gets nothing out of this. We spend all this money to put this infrastructure in. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't benefit. It certainly doesn't benefit the farmers and ranchers that live downstream from this. It hasn't benefited the communities where they've created these man camps up in the area where they're drilling for oil, where you've had this tremendous influx of men for a while oil prices were high, getting paid huge salaries, and school teachers were driving trucks. And you had a high incidence of prostitution and so forth. So actually the people in North Dakota don't like that. They like, apparently, the revenue, and the politicians up there like the money they get from the oil companies. And it's a petro state.
Yeah.
It's a state that has a history also of racism toward Native Americans, something that I wasn't aware of. And until you go up there and you realize this has been going on for 200-300 years.
Yeah, this is Selma all over again, isn't it, Jeff?
Well, they call it the Big North.
Yeah.
Or up, down north, or up. And it is a particular version. And yes, the kind of tactics that are being used are what were used on civil rights protesters in the 50s and 60s. You can't. It's hard to ignore the comparison.
Yeah.
And Jeff, would you say also that the increased militarization, it's far beyond, Birmingham with dogs and water cannons.
Yes.
I mean, this is taking it to really a military attack.
Yeah, on peaceful people who are unarmed.
Yeah, well, I think it's about crowd control. I mean, at some point, when I saw the bulldozers and the people trying to stop the bulldozers, I thought I was in Gaza or maybe the West Bank. And the kind of tactics that are being used are actually practiced by the Israeli army frequently, and some of the weaponry comes from there.
Well, the veterans that are coming, many of them, they've said that they could not understand the level of this is why one of the reasons they're organizing to come. They could not understand the level of militarization against peaceful people. He said these weapons were used in Afghanistan. Why are we using this for people who are praying for their water,
Jeff, can you hang on while we take a quick station break?
Sure.
Because we have a lot more questions for you.
This is KWMR Community Radio. For West Marin, 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, and 92.3 San Geronimo Valley, and streaming live on kwmr.org. And KWMR is supported by Building Supply Center in downtown Point Reyes Station, serving the local community's building and hardware needs since 1964. More information at 415-663-1737. And we're also supported by Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company, offering handcrafted artisan cheese, including fresh mozzarella, Bay Blue, Toma, and Point Reyes Original Blue. The farm's culinary and educational center, The Fork, offers farm-to-table culinary experiences and is available for events. More information at 1-800-591-6878 or online at pointreyscheese.com or The Fork at pointreyes.com. And also, KWMR is supported by the Point Reyes Hostel, part of Hosteling International USA, a non-profit organization whose mission is to help all, and especially the young, gain a greater understanding of the world and its people through hosteling. The Point Reyes Hostel provides low-cost accommodations to individuals and groups of all ages within the boundaries of the Point Reyes National Seashore.
And you're listening to Let's Talk Radio with co-host Mary Frank, Paul Raffel, Raven Gray, and I'm Robin Carpenter. And on the phone we have attorney Jeffrey Haas, who is working with the Standing Rock, the tribes there. And we'd like you to share your views or ask questions of Jeffrey at 415-663-8492, or you can tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR.
Oh, I have a question. Are you a member of the Water Protector Legal Collective?
I am.
Okay.
And, it's the Lawyers Guild that formed the lawsuit, right, Jeff? It was under the Lawyers Guild jurisdiction?
Yeah, the Water Protectors Legal Collective are mostly out-of-state, out-of-North Dakota lawyers who have volunteered their time to go up and work first partly on the defense of what is now over 500 cases, or 450 criminal cases, and also on the offense where we can take advantage of that to try to protect the people, to protect the water protectors, and to stop the pipeline if we can.
Can you speak to, this is Raven talking, I've been just returned back from Standing Rock, and can you speak to the number of arrests that have been made there and some of the charges that I heard recently, as recently as last week, that were dropped?
Yeah, well, that's another, in addition to the escalation of the military, they've also been they attempted really escalation of the criminal charges, so that originally people who got charged with criminal trespass for blocking machinery, they raised it to riot.
Oh my goodness!
And then people who had locked down were originally charged with endangerment, and then that became reckless endangerment, a felony.
Oh,
and
God!
Probably one of the most egregious things was the November
20th or the 27th?
No, actually, it was the October 27th. I guess there are a lot of dates and a lot of mass arrests.
I know.
But on October 27th, there was an effort. There was an effort made to block the at the North Camp to block the DAPL from their last leg of construction. And so they set up in the middle of the road, and people were praying and and standing there peacefully. And this huge cavalcade of weaponry and armed men came in and arrested 145 people. And somewhere at one end of the protest, somebody lit a fire or a hay bale, which had been put up to block the earth-moving machinery. Somebody set those on fire, and not in a threat to anybody and away from where almost everybody was. So they charged 147 people with conspiracy to endanger by fire.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
And so the judge actually dismissed all of those, saying you have no allegations that any particular defendant had anything to do with the fire. And therefore, those indictments have just been dismissed. Their court date was supposed to be Monday, but they've been dismissed. But the people are still there, and they're charged with the misdemeanors of riot and engaging in civil disobedience.
What about Red Fawn? Red Fawn was arrested on that date, was October 27th, right? And charged with possession of a firearm and attempted murder.
Is she still incarcerated?
She's still incarcerated, but I heard her state charges were dropped, but she's got federal charges.
Right. Well, their original allegation was that she pulled a gun out of her purse while she was being arrested and actually fired at the officers, which would be a very serious attempted murder of a policeman, and that's what she was charged with. A few days ago, they dropped those state charges, and she's charged with illegal possession of a firearm under a federal statute. So she's no longer in custody there. She was removed to federal custody.
Well, can you also, sorry if I'm...
No, go ahead.
Can you also, I know there's a website, freeredfawn, FAWN.com, for people who want to support that, but can you also point people to places where they can give money to the Legal Defense Fund, the legal people on the ground there? Do you have a website?
Yeah, well, I think one way is if you go to Water Protectors Legal Collective, our Facebook page.
Could you repeat that, Jeff? Please repeat that.
Water Protector Legal Collective.
Thank you.
And go to our Facebook page.
Is that formerly the Red Owl Collective?
Yes, we were formerly the Red Owl Collective. We learned that different tribes had different interpretations of owls, from very positive to not so positive, so we changed our name.
That's good.
And if you go there, it'll say Water Protector Legal Collective, formerly Red Owl. So, yeah. So even if you, by mistake, go to Red Owl Legal Collective on the Facebook page, you'll get sent to us, and there will be a way to donate.
Thank you.
So, Jeffrey, can you hang on for a moment? We have another caller we'd like to hear from. And
sure.
Maybe with a question for you. I don't know. Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
You might be referring to me. Are you?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you're on the air.
My name is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Actually, just calling a general question. I thought the program called Lex Talk about the Standing Rock was going to be on this morning. And maybe
No, you're on it right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was trying to listen on the radio at 89.9. And it's just wonderful classical music that's on there. The show isn't on that.
We're 90.5.
Where do you live? Are you in Bolinas?
No, I'm in San Rafael.
In San Rafael, the signal doesn't go there, but you can listen to the show online at KWMR.org.
Okay. Well, that's what I'll try then.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Jeffrey, you are still on.
So, Jeff, when you talked about the hearing that's going to be on excessive force, what are the laws and the rights around basically this? We've had some people that emailed us before the show saying they see this as a precursor to the full militarization of the American police against any protest whatsoever. Do you and do we have laws that protect us from excessive force?
Well, we do have laws. The Fourth Amendment, which is against illegal searches and seizures, has been interpreted to mean that using excessive force is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And it's very clear, and we also have a First Amendment right to meaningful assembly and free speech, to do it in a place that can have an effect. And those are pretty basic rights that we have. And they're always being challenged. In this case, we're saying that the methods they used in a prior arrest, they didn't use excessive force so much in the arrest, but then they made people go through this day and a half internment in jails where they were kept in dog kennel-like facilities without food, water, or bathroom facilities. Everyone was strip searched. People put in orange jumpsuits. They lost their personal belongings. And so that's been going on.
Is that part of the lawsuit?
And that we have a lawsuit that we're going to file. We've got the declarants and so forth, and we expect to file that lawsuit very shortly.
Oh, that's good.
Around their mistreatment following their arrest. But yes, and there's actually pretty good law that says even if you're part of a demonstration, even if people are acting illegally, they're not entitled to use more force than is necessary to protect them. And in this situation, in particular the situation on the bridge with the tear gas, actually there was a barrier between the protesters and the police. There were no threats to the police. So they're supposed to use the minimum amount of force necessary to arrest people. And even if somebody in the crowd, one or two people, for example, were to do something, throw a rock, or that doesn't mean that they can use excessive force on the whole crowd. So that's what the law is. How this judge up there is going to interpret it, it's very strange because just this morning he denied the TRO supposedly because the other side hadn't been served, and he was saying we were asking for a temporary restraining order ex parte, which means without one side being present. And in fact, we didn't do that. We've spent the last 3 days trying to serve them, have served them, even though the sheriff was doing his best to avoid service for 2 days. And so we're going to ask him to give us a date for a hearing. We're not saying the sheriff shouldn't be there, but we say he should move expeditiously to disallow the use of these military-type weapons.
So, Jeff, if the judge is there in North Dakota, which the odds are he will be less than cooperative, for what you're trying to achieve, so then you'll be appealing it up?
That's possible. I mean, I've been doing unpopular cases for a long time. And, of course, you do them hoping to win, hoping to get relief, hoping to stop illegal practices. And we want to do all those things, and we'll see. And at the minimum, we want to expose those things as happening, so that the public outcry and the press can also weigh in on stopping what's going on.
And do you feel that finally, mainstream media has started to cover the story, which they've ignored for many, many months? Do you feel that will have some impact or political pressure on the current administration?
You mean Obama?
Yes.
Well, CNN showed up yesterday.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the media?
You really wonder about what Obama's is he waiting for his term to expire and hope whatever happens on the next watch? There's been so many places here where he's been indecisive. The Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Energy and the Environment Department issued told DAPL, the corporations, we don't want this. We don't want you to drill within 20 miles of the Missouri River, and you don't have a permit to go under it. And DAPL has totally ignored that warning, have drilled right up to the river, and rumors are that they'll drill under. They may have even started drilling under the river, which they don't have a permit for.
So if they don't have a permit, then why aren't they being arrested? I mean, isn't that illegal, Jeff, for them to be doing that?
Well, the order that the permit that they've been denied is the area right under the Missouri River.
So that's why they've drilled right up to, but the minute they start to go into the river, then they're breaking the law.
Technically, but it's very hard to monitor it because it's way off the road. And they won't allow drones anymore up there so we can see exactly what they're doing.
Well, at least until December 4th, that ban is in effect.
Ah, really?
But it's interesting. I mean, it's quite invisible up there. You can't get anywhere near it thanks to the militarized police and all the razor wire and the blockades, and now the ban on drones. And, what's to stop them just doing it and then paying the fines later?
Jeff, can you hold on? We have another caller. Can you hold on still a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, it's Martine again. Just quickly, I wanted to say I saw a young First Nation woman recently saying that the term protester is a colonization term for someone who is standing up for their rights. So just as guardian of our language, that we could stand with them by
Protector.
Protectors, and our gatherings or prayer circles or other terms. I mean, so many terms get thrown around, such as terrorist, insurgents, and et cetera. So to not use the colonization language, I think, is one way we can learn to be together and to be in unity with each other.
Yes.
And also, Winona LaDuke made a point about this pipeline. She said with the amount of oil they're already shipping out, they only have a 2-year supply. So it'll be done. So that
really?
Maybe one, and you could check that, but that's what she said from her research. And maybe that's one reason they're trying so hard to push this through, so they can make this big profit, quickly. But thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Martine.
Thank you, Martine. Yeah, so this is, yes, give us a call, 415-663-8492. Ask Jeffrey questions or just state your opinion and whatever your thoughts are about this. 415-663-8492.
Before you go back to Jeffrey, can I just interject, following on Martine's comment that they are peaceful, prayerful water protectors, is that if you want to find out what's going on at Standing Rock, please look to the indigenous sources of media. There's Indigenous Environmental Network, which Constance mentioned. Dallas Goldworth heads up that. There's Digital Smoke Signals. There's Indigenous Rising Media. There's specific live feeds from people that are on the ground at Standing Rock. Indigenous voices are leading this movement, and I think if we look to them and listen to them, that's where the lead is coming from and where the truth is.
Yes, and I just want to interject another thought here too, Raven, is that John Bolenball, who is a Navy veteran, a union member, also an indigenous. Oh no, he's not even indigenous. He's not, but he's doing wonderful work. When he worked on the Battle Creek, Michigan spill, and he was called there for cleanup, he couldn't believe the cover-up. He saw 40 miles of dead fish and animals that they just covered up with soil and grass. This is one of the things that we're facing in every community where the pipelines go. And they were told not to mention it. Enbridge started to rotate crews so you could never know if it was clean. And when he went to the EPA and exposed the cover-up, he was fired and called a liar, and he proved them wrong. He kept at it. He kept pushing, resulting in the oil company having to uncover $600 million worth of work covering the spill because it was an Aaron Brockovich situation. He went to homes in the area. 200 people were sick, and they had seizures and tumored animals, and people were passing away. And these chemicals, I mean, there's a reason why they're fighting so hard. These chemicals rain havoc on your system. And the kids having leukemia at the local high school, and every place that this happens, you see this kind of effect. So, this is one of the reasons.
Combining what you're saying and what the caller said, that's why they call themselves the water protectors.
Yes.
Is the term that is accurate, and it does explain what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we haven't...
People who want to do things in addition to providing support to both the provisions up there and also the legal effort, there are also campaigns going along against the banks that are loaning the money for DAPL. And those loans, there's a lot of international pressure, and many of those banks have signed on to international protocols about the climate. And so there have been demonstrations at the banks, particularly Wells Fargo and Bank of America. They're European banks.
Yes,
and it's also part of a national campaign
And there, I just want to mention those banks if you want to pull your money out. Citibank, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, and Bank of the West, and U.S. Bank are the big contributors and supporters. But we have a caller, Jeff. Please hang on.
I think we have banks from all over the world.
I'm sorry, I have another call I have to take in
all right.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. We certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you you all seem so knowledgeable. Raven, thank you for going up there. I'm sure you can give a very powerful account of what you saw and experienced.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you for
Jeff,
coming.
for your work.
Okay, caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
My name is Charles, and I live in Marshall.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
I have a symbolic gesture, and I hope Bing Gong will help me with this. People who are interested and show up to his event at the Presbyterian Church to sign up to renounce all of your vacations for 2017. Now, that's not going to make a big dent in worldwide oil consumption, but all that money that you didn't spend on airline tickets and hotels and driving around could be donated to Jeffrey's efforts, and it would be at least some tens of thousands of dollars, if not much more. So anyone who wants to join the pledge, no vacations in 2017. I know that the climate and the landscape in West Marin is so hideous that you need to get away, but just as a symbolic gesture, stay here in 2017. We could do teach-ins while you're here, and we could donate that money that you won't be spending to the legal efforts there in the Dakotas.
Excellent idea. Well
Thank
done.
you for your idea.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
I'm
Charles.
so happy that so many people have called in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charles.
Well, can I just go back to Jeffrey and this last statement before Charles called in to say that there is a website called Defund DAPL, DEFUND-DAPL, and that gives all of the actions taking place and the things you can do to undermine
Great.
the black snake, according to the Lakota prophecy.
So I do want to read from an email that was sent before the show by Stephen. And his concern is about this militarization of the police, of course, and all the equipment they have. If they'd left 20 or 30 Native Americans alone, this would have been a non-event. If lessons in crowd control, is this what they're training for? Are they actually training for crowd control of citizens? The way to control a crowd is to be friendly and begin a dialogue, and things settle down. Those without a strong conviction head home for the winter. The crowd becomes smaller. Factions develop, weakening the protest. Corporation brings them winter supplies. Great press. News moves on. And in time, the corporation works through the courts. The protest. The pipeline builds the pipeline. So this whole thing, this overreaction to peaceful protectors with this incredible machinery. The FBI is not involved in all this because they would be negotiating with protectors. I mean,
Possibly.
they may have infiltrators inside.
Maybe.
We've got a caller.
Anyway, we do have a caller. You're on the air, caller. What's your name, please?
Nancy Stein.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Paul, and everyone there.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey. I just wanted to bring up something that probably isn't a very popular thing, but it seems to me that along with divesting from banks, that we should all be looking at investments, because it is very hard to find an investment that's making any money, let alone an investment that doesn't have gas, oil, and fracking in it. And I hear a lot of people out here who are, I just think it's very hypocritical. If you're really talking about Standing Rock and oil, we need to go farther than that and look to how we actually support these things.
Absolutely.
And one more thing I wanted to say about that is you have only to look at Bernie Sanders' campaign, where the average contribution was $27 and what he was able to do with that. And so little bits of money do add up when millions of people are supporting them. So I just wanted to say that. It's something we don't talk about a lot, and I think we should be talking about it.
Yes, I think that's true. There's a lot of people are complicit, even if they don't know they are. They have mutual funds that are invested in these old. I mean, there's
your 401k.
The list of banks involved is international and crazy, and you're invested in oil, and we all drive cars. You know, I mean.
Well, and things like Nancy, like joining Slow Money and looking at organizations where you are investing your money locally, and we have an investment circle here that does that. And so being aware of what are the alternatives, where is my money, where can I put it where I am not serving the black snake and Apple and the bad guys.
Yes, and it's very complicated. I mean, I talked to someone this morning who was saying that when you're running a municipal fund, you know, it's something like a local, even small investment for something local, some local organization, that you have to make some money at it or people get very upset with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because look at and especially over the next 4 years, you know, right now the stock market is soaring. They love Donald Trump. They love what's going on.
Well, they love chaos because it means because they gamble. They're all gamblers now, and this is when you can make the big killings. I was listening to a Bloomberg report yesterday. They were I was going, why are they? Although Donald Trump has put half of Goldman Sachs back in cabinet positions now.
Yeah, exactly. The same old people.
Same system.
You need to not be part of them.
Yep.
That's all.
Well said.
Thank you,
Nancy.
You know, there's another aspect to this, too, which is, what did you say?
Oh, no, you just have to watch the time.
Oh, okay. One of the, what can I say? The thing that struck me so very hard is that the indigenous people may be the only people and the only culture on the planet that really knows how to live on the planet. And that so many of our problems can be solved if we were to adapt some of their ways. Alan Levine said this amazing thing. He said the significance of the inclusion of the indigenous spiritual attitude in social justice and environmental activism is key. The wider and deeper view of the human relationship with spirit and nature, and calling attention to the sacred fire, sacred water, sacred sky, sacred Mother Earth, not just in words, but in the way we feel and the way we move about, is transformative and infectious. And people who have visited Standing Rock have all come back saying these things. It holds keys to the healing power needed to shift humanity from the destructive trajectory that we seem locked into. And what's being called forth here is a heart-centered and holistic way of being and relating, one of communion rather than control over. And I just want to thank everybody who called in today. I want to thank you, Jeff, for giving us so much good information and for everyone's participation. I hope you'll tune in every Thursday at 11 because your voice really does matter.
KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. And next week we'll be discussing...
I don't know what we'll be discussing next week.
It'll be a surprise. But you just watch for your email from Paul and our Facebook post. That's and you'll find out. I'm sure it will be as scintillating as this week.
And this has been Let's Talk on KWMR with your hosts, Mary Frank, Robin Carpenter, Raven Gray, joining us once again.
Thank you, Raven.
And I'm Paul Raffel.